Hello everyone and welcome to Power Playground. This is your host Michael, and today I'm going to be showing you all how to take a standard PC power supply like the one in the top right here and convert it into your own benchtop type power supply. Now these are a good cheap way to get clean consistent voltage to your projects. Of course there are multiple different voltages. The easiest way to tell is the actual color coding of each individual wire here. A lot of these cables are yellow. The yellow cables, those are 12 volts. And then of course you notice there's a lot of black ones as well. Actually most of them are black. That is our ground or our negative lead, neutral, common, whatever you want to call it. And there are also a couple other colors here. There is a red color that is 5 volts, and then orange is 3.3 volts. Then of course there are a few other colors like purple or like blue and gray. Those are weird, like just weird system voltages. Now the only other wire you want to pay attention to is this green wire here. It is the lifeline of getting this power supply to work without a computer. So what you need to do is you need to basically short it with one of the black wires. And I'm going to show you all with a paper clip or something similar here at least. As you can see, I just used this little guy. I pinched out the two connectors with the black and the green. So now what I can do is I can get my AC cable, one moment. And now instead of pressing like a computer power button on the motherboard or on a PC case, you just flip the power switch and hey, there we go. As you see, the fan is spinning. Let's go ahead and disconnect this guy and give it a few seconds for the caps to kind of clear. And as you can see, the fan has stopped spinning. So the system is off now that I've disconnected this connection here. And of course, we can go ahead and splice it in. It starts back up. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and test our voltages to make sure everything's stable and properly working, because if you're like me and you bought this used, it could be wrong. Now first thing to do is to turn on our multimeter, and of course you want to go to volts, which is the V. Usually it has a squiggly line, or actually a flat line along with it too, which means it's DC and AC. Okay, and I'm just probing the one of the yellows and one of the blacks. And that's 12.31 volts. That's really nice. You want a higher voltage if there's nothing being drawn on these here. And another thing I did forget to mention is some power supplies. I haven't run into this myself, but I've heard people say online that they need to use like a resistor on like the 5 volts connection in order to get them to actually power on. I've never run this before, but you would basically run it from the one of the red contacts to the black. You just plug in a resistor between the two, and that would create like a dummy load, as they say. But I've never had to use a dummy load ever before, and I've spliced many power supplies in my time. One thing I do want to note is, so if you notice there's this little diagram here, if you see plus 12V1 and 12V2, so there's actually 4 different rails on here. What rails are basically is they're like different sources of power. So what would happen is if you were to try to like combine all these yellow wires to get like all of this, which of course all these combined seem to be 41 amps, you would probably short the power supply out because it's multiple sources trying to be plugged in. So if I had to rather guess, it looks like there are a number of these PCI Express connectors here, along with like an 8-pin motherboard connector. So but yeah, it looks like we got some like 6 pins, some 4 pins. So I'd assume those would be on those would be each individual rails, at least the PCI Express connectors would be, and then the other common ones like the ones with the Molex and the motherboard, that would probably be on their own rail as well. It's kind of a bit of a guesswork. The ultimate way I'm going to be able to figure that out is I'm going to have to actually take the power supply apart and just look at the actual board. Usually I recommend getting one with just one single rail, just because it's easier to tap into and wire. Yeah, I'm just going to test our 5 volt, which looks like it is pin number 4 on this other side here, and our negative, that's 5.21. Okay, so yep, pretty good. Yeah, there's only one 5 volt rail, 30 amps, nice. Definitely a bit of headroom for future upgrades. And now that we know everything works properly and I don't need to return this unit, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it apart because I really don't like having all of these wires. It's a bit unnecessary. That's for safety sakes, we're going to go ahead and unplug everything. And I'm going to unplug the main power from our power supply. for safety reasons. And I'm gonna wait a bit. I need to change the battery out in the camera anyway, so I'm gonna wait a bit, wait for the caps to drain and some of this stuff to become less energized. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna crack this thing open, just because I don't want this Medusa of cables coming out of this crazy power supply here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and void our warranty. Now, like I said, this is the reason why you want to test before getting into anything, because you are going to void your warranty by doing this. Let's locate the screw, get our screwdriver, wherever it may be. A majority of these ATX power supplies just have 4 screws. You do not need to undo the fan screws. In fact, don't screw with those. Oh Lord, that's bad. All right, and as you're taking out, keep in mind that the fan will be attached to the, or be wired into everything, so don't try to yank it out by force or else you may damage something. So I'm gonna go ahead and clip this zip tie to let this fan breathe a bit, and there should be, let's see, if you can see down there a little white connector, check it to see if there's any goop like tacking it on. This one doesn't have that, so easy to take off. I'm gonna set this aside. Now, I recommend not touching any of this crap. Last time I touched these metal like heat fins on a power supply, my arm went numb because I think I received a bit of voltage. I'm gonna go ahead and undo all these zip ties because, like I said, I'm gonna hack all these apart. Right now I'm checking the board, seeing if I can figure out what rail is, or what goes to what our rails are. Oh, there we go. Don't know if y'all can see that. There's 12V1, 12V2. It's on the board here, so those are our voltage rails. So there are 4 of these rails. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fire up my soldering iron and make sure I have everything ready to go. Now, I plan on keeping some of these wires like they are, mainly just the 12 volts. Some are going to get these XT60 type connectors, while others are going to get these male ACE or DC jack, barrel jack connectors. A lot of the DC barrel jack connectors, those are going to be plugging in all my battery charging station. Got about 4 of these guys. And then of course, another thing I'm going to power is my LED lamp. I want to go ahead and like clip off some of these unnecessary connectors, like this purple wire. Not going to need it because it's like a weird, another 5-volt connector, and I just like keeping things. I have plenty of those. Ultimately, I'm gonna like probably do like a USB charging type deal off of the 5-volt circuit, because of course USB is 5 volts and that works pretty well. And these connectors I have no use for plus 3.3 in such a small gauge. I have plenty of those. I'm gonna clip them off as much as I can on the actual board. Try not to keep too much debris laying around or any open ends for the thing to short circuit on. Another good thing to do is just to go ahead and clip off the zip ties on the motherboard connector, and then just go to town and start clipping things off. Just taking off any unnecessary wires. So I recommend, of course, picking up different lengths of heat shrink. You can usually get like a assortment kit at your local hardware store or Harbor Freight. Since I'm not able to fully clip this wire down to the board level, I'm just gonna create a little end cap with heat shrink. Do not cut the green cable because, like I said, we need to short that, which I'm just gonna permanently short with one of the black connectors here. I just wanna get them pretty short. I'm just gonna stuff them in the case anyway. Get our wire strippers, just gonna cut these guys. I'm just gonna do like a tail end, nothing too pretty. I mean, it's gonna be, nobody's gonna see it anyway. Same thing as before, just with 2 wires. Of course, just leave a little thing at the tip, just a bit of extra. Ooh. Flames go up. Make sure your skin's not above it. That'll work. And just for extra air retentiveness, gonna use a zip tie to make sure these 2 don't try to separate from each other. So another little guy. Cut off our Molex and SATA ends. All right, so I have all of my connectors mostly taken care of here. Just got the 3 volt, the 3.3, the 5 volt, and the ground for those kind of capped off for future use. Probably not going to use much of the 3.3, but I'll keep it there just in case. And then of course I have all my 12 volts ready to go. I'm going to be installing a few of these XT60 connectors just because they're pretty heavy duty. And about 4 of these, I'm missing one right now, of these AC adapters. And of course I'm going to solder these all on the 12 volt pins. So I'll go ahead and just show you all a bit of a time lapse of me doing all this. Alright folks, so got all my connectors that I wanted installed here. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to button everything up here now. Try to get everything organized the best I can. All of my unused connectors I want to kind of group into the same sort of bunch, separate to everything else. Just get everything nice and well organized. Plug in our fan. There we go. Just make sure the tabs on the side all line up proper. And of course, make sure nothing is like sticking out. Everything's back together. So now I'm gonna go ahead and locate my, wherever the flip I put this power cord, plug her back in. Yeah, it looks like, yep, we are in working order here. Alright folks, the benchtop power supply is finished. Now, you can't see it right now because it's actually under the desk. And the reason for that is just to make it a bit more discreet. I know it's kind of ironic considering the name is benchtop power supply, but I do have like cool little leads coming up to the bench like this. This is my 12 volt, and there'll be a few others in the future that I'll use, but that's like my main one. I can stick alligator clips into that guy. I'll probably zip tie it or make a, probably gonna eventually do like a banana clipped or banana plug type adapter desk sitting thing to plug into that. But yeah, essentially the reason I did this was to eliminate on AC adapters because the LEDs are hooked up to it, all of my battery chargers are, and of course that's pretty much it for now, except I'm probably going to do some like project power supply type thing for that in the future. But this is the big old pile, about 6 AC adapters that help eliminate, so that is super awesome. So let's go ahead, creep down here. Okay, so here it is. I just have it mounted here. I have, of course, I will link the FreeCAD or the FreeCAD video I had for this red bracket you see up here. And yeah, it's pretty simple little assembly here. I just mounted it to the bottom of the desk here, and of course you see all the wires going. Gonna tidy them up at some point, but for now it's pretty good. So that's gonna be about a wrap here. Alright folks, just want to thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button, consider subscribing, and check out some other videos. And have a great day.